special, neat, fabulous, and all the things that, would seem like trying to.
Were we already recording when we were talking about
No,
it?
we weren't. We weren't already. We just started when I said, yeah, nice.
Oh,
and
okay.
All that stuff. That's when it started, Diane. So
Okay.
now we're in the show.
Oh my God, we're in it now?
Everything from here forward is show
Oh no.
until it's over. Yeah, that's right. I refuse to do any editing, so
Okay.
try not
Then
to burp,
don't.
try not to belch too much, or any other kind of gross audible body functions.
I'll try, Bill.
Oh, thank you, Diane. I only ask for your participation in trying. Oh,
It's.
take it easy. Jeez, what are you rushing me for?
I thought maybe
Still
you'd
trying to
forgotten.
I'm still trying to get my feet under me here.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out what is going on in the world. I am really sore today. I think it was the heat. Because we were walking in the sun. And it only got to 60 degrees.
Well,
What are you going to do?
I don't know.
Anyway, we have the candles lit. We have the color palette is interesting this morning. For some reason, that looks weird up there. It's like this. There's a reflection hitting just the top. I could try to explain it to the audience,
Surreal,
Diane, but I don't think
Bill.
either one of them would want to hear any more about it than they've already heard. So I think we can move along into it's 8:48 a.m. Saturday, April the 20th, 2024. I'm Bill.
I'm Diane.
It's the Bill and Diane Show. I think you quit a little early.
Sorry. I ran out of breath.
Did you? These things happen. These things happen. So I would say that it has been. What has it been? It's been an interesting week here in Lake Abundance. Over to you. I was just trying to think of what week this is.
You went to the John Gorski.
I went to okay, that's what I was trying to remember. Was that last Sunday?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. So I went to a memorial reading for a poet. You have to understand, this is a whole different world. I'm going to the Couth Buzzard. That's not a different world. But everybody inside is different. So it's very interesting. It's interesting to be trying to get to know another group of people.
Yeah.
Or enter another kind of milieu. So there's that aspect of it. But then Kun Woon, who I admire, he's really good, walked up to me and says, "Oh, you're Bill."
Well, I think he probably saw the
He's probably seen the poetry break, but
poetry break that you read some of his work.
Yeah, and he said, "I appreciate you reading some of my stuff." And I said, it was like being introduced to Jim Page the first time. You're kind of like, "Oh, God." I said, "Well, it's a pleasure." I kind of patted him on the shoulder. Happy I could help.
I got myself a cup of coffee here, and I'm going to take me a sip.
What am I supposed to be? Anyway.
Ham and eggs.
Anyway, it was weird. But it was great. And it was a great tribute. And it was, I learned so much more about John because I never met John.
He just came to the poetry
He's a guy
breaks.
that Theo told him and some other local people about the poetry break. So John contacted me, and I said, "Yeah, send some stuff." And he sent some stuff, and it was good stuff. And
Is that also...
he kept sending stuff, and we kind of had an epistolary, an email relationship came up, and we talked about our health issues and things like that, and so
Yeah, at one point he was saying that he thought that I had a much harder journey than
yeah.
he did, and I was like, really? His sounds so
Did-
much worse
yeah,
than
it
mine.
sounded like a rough go. But the thing about the event is that all these people were talking about how funny he was, and people would get up and read his poems, and to me, everybody was laughing during the poems. And I had no idea what was funny
Yeah.
because they knew him and they knew how he would have written something like that and what his vantage point would be on it. Whereas for me, I'm appreciating the poem for how it is written and what it describes and the images it evokes in me, and other people think it's funny.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so that it was a real lesson for me on how poems can operate on so many levels depending on how close to the poet you actually are, which I thought was a very interesting thing to observe. A couple of people even chuckled at the poem that I read. And I wasn't reading it because I thought it was funny.
No.
I just thought it was a good poem. But it's just interesting to note that. And that I was the only one who read a poem that I'd written for John, which seemed odd. But a lot of people thought that, they came up to me afterwards and I really liked that poem you wrote for John. And the one that ends, and that's the ball game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a good event. It felt, I feel, when I go to something like that, I feel brave. which is
think
weird.
I think it is
But-
brave. I don't think it's weird
because I am an old man.
you're going into an entirely different
Yeah,
circle of
yeah.
of endeavor.
And that's what I said
people.
when I got up. I said, I love the Couth Buzzard. I have performed here as a singer-songwriter, but never. So I'm coming from a complete. I feel like I'm attending a club meeting where I'm the new prospective member, and I'm kind of trying to, hi, kind of thing. It's weird, but it was fun.
It's so
it was
interesting that John became a friend wholly through the
Yeah.
contributions and also the comments that he
Yeah.
made at the poetry break, because he was a educating
Yes.
person.
He knew, he would have something to say. I mean, he
He
and I
had
like
obviously studied
Right.
poetry quite a bit,
Right. Well,
and
he
the
was-
poets.
He was, I imagine, a lot of it came from his association with Hugo House, because a lot of the people at the event were Hugo House people. So, anyway, that happened.
That did happen.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, just because Mark usually listens to the show, I don't know if he will be,
Yeah.
that we learned about your unexpected illness during your trip, and we are so hoping that you're feeling better
Yeah.
now and might be ready to start up your trip again. I didn't check this morning to see how his health is, but we were thinking about you on Tuesday most certainly, and have been thinking about you and hoping that you're feeling better.
Bingo.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
just wanted to say hugs to you, Mark.
Yep. And the other thing, I went for a walk yesterday with Jim, which was nice. That was a good part of my week. Talked to the big guy a couple of times, like I always do. It's always good. Yeah. It's, hasn't been a big week.
It hasn't been it's like any other week during this period of time of our lives, that it may not be full of action, but it's full of thought.
Yeah. Oh, and then one other thing. After my walk yesterday, I christened our new bathtub by doing a cold water plunge. It wasn't really a plunge. It was a sit, plunge, more sitting. And I think I sat too long.
Yeah, you probably need to be conscious of
A
the.
little quicker in and out of the tub. Totally. I wanted to wait till I numbed up,
Yeah.
but man, I'm sore today.
So did you like the bathtub though? You felt
Oh,
like
I
it
love
was
the bathtub. I love the bathtub.
a
yeah.
good soaking tub.
Yes, it will be a fine.
I don't know about you, but there's always this feeling with every step that you feel like, God, I hope it really is okay. You know, like I went down to make
Yeah.
sure that it
When
wasn't.
I was draining the
when it
tub,
was
you had to go
draining,
down and
I-
make sure it wasn't leaking.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure it wasn't leaking anywhere, and
Yeah.
I mean,
But you could christen the shower. I christened the bathtub. You could christen the shower.
I'll christen the shower.
Wow, that's
That
cool.
sounds kind of fun, actually.
Yeah. I'm kind of looking forward to this whole new shower
System.
situation.
Yeah.
But there's very little. The handle.
Yeah.
That's very little turn.
Yeah.
You know, there's about a quarter of a turn to get full on, and so I turned it on to fill up my bathtub, you know, and I felt the water coming in, it was getting hot, and I went, oh, so I went back to about 7 o'clock, and it was still coming on full, but it was cold then. It's interesting
Well-
finding the cold water.
It's weird to have to
Yeah, learn a new shower system.
introduce yourself
Yeah.
to.
How do I regulate the temperature in this with this knob? I'm so used to the other knob.
Well, for me, I think a lot of the action in my head, at least, happened yesterday and this morning.
Well, there you go.
Partially because I had stumbled upon this video. It's by this guy who calls himself Professor of Rock, and he does examinations of music of our era, you know, and in entertaining ways. But he had this, you know, they have these tantalizing headlines. And this one was something like decoding the mysterious song, you know, and you don't know who it is, but I recognized the photo of the person, and it was Al Stewart. And so I was curious about the song that they were going to do. I thought I knew what it would be, and it was Year of the Cat. But it was an interesting video because he interviewed Al Stewart, and Al Stewart has quite a history that I did not know about, including being a roommate with Paul Simon for a while, and he lived in a neighborhood that had various rock musicians. The notable one that I recognized was Greg Emerson from Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Keith Emerson. Or
no,
Greg Lake.
Greg Lake. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. I get confused about who
The first
which
names.
one is, you know. Anyway, it was an interesting interview, but I was thinking, you know, I liked Year of the Cat as a pop song. It was certainly something I enjoyed hearing on the radio. I never bought the album.
Yeah.
However, I went to see Al Stewart when I was in college. And he came to Pacific Lutheran University, and
Oh,
it was
so he came to see you. You didn't go to see him. He came to see you.
he came to see us.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
he didn't come to see me
Well,
personally.
okay.
I was at that time I was just going to different concerts. I don't know that maybe I had heard Year of the Cat because it said that it was his Year of the Cat tour. And part of the reason why I say it said is I went on this adventure to try to see when he actually came to PLU, because I thought, I know he came to PLU and that was in the yearbook. So maybe I could find out when he came. Because for some reason I thought it was like my freshman year. It was actually my junior year. But it was, I stumbled upon this site that had our old yearbooks that you could just page through. And so I was able to find, because I knew it was in the yearbook. I was not thinking that that was going to happen. And man, I had such a blast from the past. I mean, just seeing faces that you just feel like, oh, that person, all these events that I went to, and it was like a review of my life or something in a very weird way.
Yeah.
Because in some ways, I haven't thought about college really in a long time. So it felt like a different lifetime that I was actually remembering, and so that was quite something in itself. But I found this page, and the person actually wrote about Al Stewart's concert for the yearbook,
Right.
and I have to read it because
Oh, God.
I do, just because it cracks me up. Excellent, beautiful. I'm in love with him. I never dreamed we'd get someone like Al Stewart at PLU. The gymnasium was packed with excited fans. Everyone waited for that special moment. Then cheers broke loose. Al Stewart came on the stage. He wasn't like any performer I've ever seen. No pretense, no illusions, no glitter, just jeans and a t-shirt. He even looked like he could have been anybody's little brother. That image dissolved suddenly as he spoke. His words tumbled out in a rich English accent. But it was the year of the cat that led the crowd into wild cheering. Stewart's backup people supported his singing with instrumental work. One guy played keyboard, violin, and piano. Actually, he was not totally what I had expected. Al Stewart was really a deep guy. He was heavy on history and emotional ballad songs. When he played Roads to Moscow, a giant screen behind him depicted scenes from World War II. But then it was over. The applause seemed endless. Like some great emotion sweeping the crowd, all of Olsen was consumed with a standing ovation. Outstanding.
Yeah.
I read that and I thought, that is poor writing, man.
There's no name attached, right?
No,
Yeah.
there was no
Okay.
name. I just felt like, really?
I would have put a couple more pictures of the concert and skipped the writing altogether, huh?
I know, exactly, because they only had one. But it was just interesting to
Listen.
to read what somebody said about this concert that I remembered attending. And one of the things that I remember about that concert is that it was in the gymnasium. So our gymnasium wasn't like a huge stadium or anything. It was just a gymnasium. And thinking how bizarre it was to watch somebody who you could hear on the radio in this gymnasium. I thought that was sort of a bizarre thing. But I remember that concert because I loved this one song, Roads to Moscow. And I was not, I did not buy an album of Year of the Cat, but I don't know whether they were selling it. I don't know whether I bought it at the concert or bought it afterwards. But I bought the album Past, Present, and Future, which was the album that Roads to Moscow was on.
Right.
And it really absorbed me. So it was interesting to see this interview with Al Stewart, because it just clicked in my brain that I hadn't listened to Al Stewart in a very long time, and how that song was so powerful. And I do think that they played it on the radio, but it was it is a long song. So I was thinking, how did they get away with that? It's like almost 8 minutes long. But I remember when I heard it, and I was telling you this morning that it shows the arrogance of Americans that we always think that we alone won the war for everybody, you know. It's because I did not know about this particular event in history. And I'm going to attach a really great article that I found about the song. There is a man who was working at RCA Records in the 70s, and he thought that this was a masterpiece of a song. And I just thought it was a really interesting event that was written into a song in a very evocative way.
Yeah.
That I just thought he just pulls you in from the very start. But if you don't know the events, which I did not, everything seems sort of a little like a puzzle that needs to be solved. And so it actually made me read about the events that he was talking about.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I don't know whether I would have explored that. I was not a history major
Yeah.
and did not take history classes too much in college, but I think I'm even more interested in history now than I was when I was in school, which makes a lot of sense because the more history you live through, the more you feel like, wow, man, I would love to know a little bit more than
Yeah.
I do.
For sure. Yeah, Al Stewart's got a very interesting writing style, which is not, these don't sound like pop songs,
Oh man, no.
very few babies and or anything like that, shoe bop baluchi bops.
Well, I'm just going to read a little from the Wikipedia. So it's a song that tells the story of the German invasion of Russia during World War II as seen through the eyes of a Russian soldier who is described by one source as being Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And it says each verse of the song covers a different phase of the campaign, starting with the invasion by German troops that commenced on June 22nd, 1941. First comes the attack, the catastrophic destruction of the Soviet Air Force aircraft at their aerodromes by the Luftwaffe, and the initial efforts by Soviet soldiers to escape the advancing Nazi horde. The next portion of the song relates to the Russian retreat through Ukraine during the summer and fall of 1941, including the fall of Smolensk, culminating in the approach of the Nazi armies to Moscow during Operation Typhoon. Stewart next describes the onset of winter, with snow and mud proving insurmountable obstacles for the Germans in the Battle of Moscow, following which they were forced to retreat. The song turns to the activities of the Soviet partisans who waged their own war against the Germans behind German lines. It then references the Great Battle of Stalingrad, the turning point of the Second World War for Germany, which led to the destruction of the German Sixth Army and ultimately sealed the fate of the Nazis in the conflict. 2 broken Tiger tanks are depicted, flames flickering from their open hatches to signify the destruction of German armed forces at Kursk and other places during 1943 and 44, and the increasing hopelessness of their military situation. The song moves on to the Soviet invasion of Germany itself, during which the Germans are able to offer little effective resistance. It speaks of old men and children being sent to stop them, but who are unable to do so. Then comes the Battle of Berlin, following which the Germans realize that their dream of world domination is over, together with Hitler's reign of terror. Finally, the song turns to its protagonist, who is eagerly awaiting his return to Russia after 4 years of fighting. When he crosses the border, however, he is detained by the MGB when they learn that he had been captured by the Germans earlier in the war, even though he was released after only 1 day. He is separated from his companions and sent to the Gulag, where the song ends as he contemplates the forever expanse of the steely Russian skies over his camp. And it says Stewart carefully researched the song, stating that he read 40 to 50 books about the war before writing it. And he said the German invasion of Russia was one of the greatest single events in the history of the world. So I actually felt that not only was it a beautiful, it's just
It's got
beautifully
a great melody.
orchestrated, and
Yeah.
it's lush and beautiful, but it actually is intriguing and mysterious and invites you into this
It's got kind of a
scene.
marching quality to it.
Yeah. So I do think it's a masterpiece, and I think one of the reasons I wasn't a big Al Stewart fan was his voice is a little reedy for me.
Yeah.
But I always enjoyed listening to it for the songs,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. It was kind of a combination of that, thinking about that song after we watched that video yesterday, then having this total blast from the past, looking through all these PLU yearbooks and thinking, wow, that was an entirely, those 4 years, they were an isolated time in my life that really didn't have, other than the effects on my education and some friends that I met there, it really felt very contained. I don't think you had that experience of your college. It seemed like your college experience really stayed with you and was not as contained as mine was.
Yeah.
But I think partially the reason why that was true for me is that I was kind of a different person back then. And I think I was still trying to be a certain kind of a person rather than flourishing into myself.
Right.
And I think that that's why I feel like, well, that period until the period that I joined Victory Music was all just seeding ground to become who I was going to be. And being at PLU was not initiating me into my new self. It was sort of trying to be the goody two-shoes character that PLU would want you to be.
Were you a goody two shoes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't my college experience, but
Yeah.
I would not call myself a goody two shoes in college.
Well, I appreciated my college experience and
Oh, yeah.
think of it with much love.
It expands your consciousness.
It certainly helped me with
immeasurably.
my analytical thinking.
Yeah.
That was the primary thing I think I got from college was that I started thinking more analytically and not taking things at face value. And that was from my professors inviting me to do so. They would give me good grades in my freshman year, but they would be saying, one professor actually wrote on one of my papers, "You're not overturning all the rocks here.
Yeah.
I'm giving you a good grade because it's well written, it's well thought through, but you haven't thought through all the way."
Yeah.
And that
That's
invitation was, I took that invitation and ran with it.
Yes, you did, Diane. You sure as heck did. Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy.
But things like Roads to Moscow actually invite that too.
Yeah. That's an educational opportunity in and of itself. And it's an amazing feat to create a song that invites somebody to know more and talks about something that nobody knows about and bring it to life to the point where someone listening will want to know more. Well, what's he talking about? Because, the Battle of Moscow, the Battle of Berlin, I don't know bupkis about that.
Yeah.
Not to mention Stalingrad and Smolensk and wherever else things were happening.
Well, and also the ending of the song
I
where
mean,
he's
the
singing
U.S.
about.
entered World War II very late and have been, our reputation, in the rest of the world, our involvement in World War II was pretty small.
Yeah.
It was the Russians, I think, who finally overpowered the Nazis.
Well, that's why I say that
Yeah.
that was education to me,
Right.
that we as Americans, being our usual bravado selves, try to act like, the Yanks are coming.
Don't worry, we're here. I got my pistol. Let's go kill some Nazis.
And the other thing that really piqued my interest this morning was a really well-written article by Frank Bruni. He's one of my favorite editorialists in the New York Times. And the article is called "The Most Important Thing I Teach My Students Isn't on the Syllabus." And he basically said that one of the things that he really felt was important for people to learn was humility. And that he felt like that is one of the problems that we're having in our society right now, not having that idea that maybe we could be wrong, And I really liked it because he was, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I liked that he said, he said, "I warn my students at the start of every semester, on the first day of every course, I confess to certain passions and quirks and tell them to be ready." And he goes through all the things that he mentions. And then he says, "And I'm going to repeat one phrase more than any other. It's complicated." They'll be familiar with that. They may even become bored with it. I'll say it when we're discussing the roots and branches of a social ill, the motivations of public and private actors, and a whole lot else. And that's because I'm standing before them not as an ambassador of certainty or a font of unassailable verities, but as an emissary of doubt. I want to give them intelligent questions, not final answers. I want to teach them how much they have to learn and how much they will always have to learn. And I mean, that speaks to what I was saying, the analytical.
Yeah.
But let's see, where's the thing? So he said, "We live in an era defined and overwhelmed by grievance, by too many Americans' obsession with how they've been wronged and their insistence on wallowing in ire. This anger reflects a pessimism that previous generations didn't feel. The ascent of identity politics and the influence of social media, it turned out, were better in inflaming us than uniting us. They promote a self-obsession at odds with community, civility, comity, and compromise. It's a problem of humility." So I just it's a really wonderful article, but I just appreciated it because he puts up a good argument that that's one of the problems that we're having in our society right now. And that, along with all the other things, kind of was mashing around in my head.
Wow.
So.
That's a lot of ideas, Diane. That's a lot of content. That's quality
That's what I like.
brain stuff. I know. I like that stuff too.
Well, it's good you do, because we have a lot of conversations like this.
We do? Yeah, I guess we do. It seems normal for us. It does. It seems normal to be talking about these kinds of things, and I like that. I like that it's normal, Diane.
Pardon me, I'm going to have another drink of coffee.
We should keep being normal, you and me.
You boy.
Just like this.
That's good coffee.
This is normal. I want this to be normal.
Well, it is.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm glad. So, shall we let Al take it from here.
Al, you educate us in your inestimable way.
Inimitable.
Inimitable.
They crossed over the border the hour before dawn, moving in lines through the day. Most of our planes were destroyed on the ground where they lay. Waiting for orders we held in the wood. Word from the front never came. By evening the sound of the gunfire was miles away. Softly we moved through the shadow, slip away through the trees, crossing their lines in the mists and the fields, on our hands and our knees. I know that I ever was able to see the fire in the air, glowing red, silhouetting the smoke on the breeze. All summer they drove us back through the Ukraine. Smolensk and Vyazma soon fell. By autumn we stood with our backs to the town of Orel. Closer and closer to Moscow they come, riding the wind like a bell. General Guderian stands at the crest of the hill. Winter brought with her the rains, oceans of mud filled the roads, gluing the tracks of their tanks to the ground, while the sky filled with snow. I know that I ever was able to see in the air, glowing red, silhouetting the snow on the breeze. In the footsteps of Napoleon, the shadow figures stagger through the winter, falling back before the gates of Moscow, standing in the wings like an avenger. And far away behind their lines, the partisans are stirring in the forest, coming unexpectedly upon their outposts, growing like a promise. You'll never know which way to turn, which way to look, you'll never see us. As we're stealing through the blackness of the night, you'll never know, you'll never hear us. And the evening sings in a voice of amber, the dawn is surely coming. The morning road leads to Stalingrad and the sky is softly humming. Two broken tigers on fire in the night flicker their souls to the wind. We're waiting the lines for the final approach to begin. It's been almost 4 years that I've carried a gun. At home it'll almost be spring. The flames of the tigers are lighting the road to Berlin. Quickly we move through the ruins that bow to the ground. The old men and children they send out to face us, they can't slow us down. And now that I ever was able to see, the eyes of the city are opening now. It's the end of the dream. I'm coming home, now you can taste it in the wind, the war is over. And I listen to the clicking of the train wheels as we roll across the border. And now they ask me of the time that I was caught behind their lines and taken prisoner. They only held me for a day, a lucky break I say. They turn and listen closer. I'll never know why I was taken from the line and all the others to board a special train and journey deep into the heart of Holy Russia. And it's cold and damp in the transit camp and the air is still and sullen. And the pale sun of October whispers the snow will soon be coming. And I wonder when I'll be home again in the morning. Answers never. And the evening sighs in the steely Russian skies go on forever.